This is the new Sena U1 communication helmet, and we've been using Sena helmets for years. This is my wife's Sena R1 Evo. It's starting to show some wear, certainly. We have a zip tie to make it more comfortable by the ear. That broke. At one point, I had to glue her visor on because it was coming off. Mine is missing some of the branding, as you can see. I even had to replace the screw to hold my visor on. And this isn't a knock on Sena's quality. Previously, we just ride a ton and we're not gentle with the helmets. They get thrown around a lot. And of course, we travel a lot with our helmets as well. The focus of this video will be the U1, though I will talk about the other helmets so you can make an informed decision. But after extensive testing, I'm going to give you the pros and cons of the U1. And I'm going to be brutally honest because this is a $200 helmet, and after we get through all the pros and cons, I'll tell you how the U1 functions so you know how to use it once you get it. All right, so first off, yes, Sena did provide us with this helmet. They're not sponsoring this video. They have no control over what I'm saying. And clearly, we like the brand. We use their helmets all the time. And if you've decided to pick up a Sena helmet, you can help support the channel for free by using our links down in the description. Thank you so much for your support. We also have our own accessory store at shop.ebikeescape.com in case you need some accessories for your electric bike. With that, let's talk about the U1. So at its core, this helmet is meant to be an e-bike helmet. You might notice that it looks a little bit different from their other helmets. They're more traditional helmets, obviously with the R1 being more road inspired, though if you add the visor, it gives it more of a not as hardcore a road biker look. And then of course the M1, that's their mountain bike helmet. This certainly gives off the mountain bike vibes. So they're certainly targeting a different demographic with this kind of full shell look. But the biggest thing here is going to be the certification for electric bikes. This is the NTA 8776 certification, which is a standard set for speed pedelecs or electric bikes that go up to 28 miles per hour. That was one of my big knocks on their previous helmets. They're just CPSC certified, no MIPS, no NTA 8776. So if you want the most safe Sena helmet, the U1 is going to be your best bet. If you aren't familiar with Sena helmets, the main benefit is that you can talk to each other if you're riding in a group. And I can't state enough how much that increases safety. When I'm riding with my wife, we can both keep our eyes out, talk about traffic. I mean, one of the main dangers of riding an electric bike is cars on the road. So you need to ride very defensively. If I'm riding in back, I can say, hey, there's a car coming from your behind. They're making a left turn. My wife, maybe riding in front of me, can tell me about a car coming to a stop sign that yes, they're waving us on, or maybe they're not. And also, yes, my wife and I have 3 kids. So having these helmets just allows us to have a conversation without being interrupted. And yes, without having to yell at each other. So the basic premise is that there is a microphone and speakers. So the microphone is actually right here in the front, and then there's 2 speakers on each side. And that's the same thing on their old helmets. That's not really new, but Sena offers 2 different types of helmets. They offer their Bluetooth helmets, and then they offer their mesh helmets. Now, we've been using the mesh helmets almost exclusively. My brother has been using the Bluetooth helmets because they come in at a little bit more of an affordable price. Though the mesh system is just a little bit easier to pair, it works a little bit more seamlessly in my opinion. So I would personally spring for the mesh system. My wife and I feel that these helmets were more reliable. It didn't happen often, but on our older Sena helmets, we would find that sometimes our voices would just be delayed, and this does feel a little bit more reliable. So it seems like there's some improvements. Of course, that also can depend on where you're riding and how far the person might be away from you. Now, you might be wondering how far away can you talk? They rate it at up to a half mile. I would say that's pretty accurate. As long as you have a line of sight to who's riding with you, you're gonna be able to hear them. If you're off-road, getting on some mountain bike trails, then it's a little bit less reliable. But otherwise, it's very good technology. Next, something you might not be thinking about is noise canceling. And I don't know how Sena does it, but we've been riding here in Florida and it's super windy by the ocean here. And there is just virtually no noticeable wind noise. And when there is wind noise, it's not actually that it's that bad. You can still hear the other person talking. So that's super impressive. As people who are on the road a lot, I really like that Sena moved to a USB-C port. That's compared to the micro USB port on the previous models. That just means we have to bring one less cable with us. Something I think is cool aesthetically, also functionally, is they have a new visor, and they have this orange one. Yes, it's somewhat transparent, but certainly offers some sun protection. I think it's a unique design. So you have that option, but you also have more of the smoke one. It attaches better to the helmet by snapping into place. And of course, you can not use it if you'd prefer. The U1 is IPX4 rated, so you don't really need to worry too much about riding when it's rainy. Of course, there's also no electronics that are really exposed. Everything is kind of underneath the helmet. They say a 12-hour talk time. I think that's pretty accurate, but we have found that a lot of times we actually leave these helmets on accidentally when we're done with the ride, so make sure you turn it off. But usually after 3 rides, I just charge them up because it's just so frustrating when you're used to talking to each other all the time to have your helmet die mid-ride. One of the annoying things on their helmets that we have been previously using is that they tried to incorporate some smart functionality like Hey Sena, similar to Hey Siri, where you could tell it a command. The problem with it was when you're just normally talking, you would activate it. That's no longer a problem on the U1. Super happy about that because I'm sure there's a lot of people that heard us say, cancel, 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 because that's what you had to do to deactivate the Hey Sena. And then of course, beyond the communication, you can listen to music on this. You can take phone calls on this. I did this the other day and it worked great. So even if you're riding solo, it's a good option. All right, so next the cons, and then I'll talk about some of the other functionality and how this helmet actually works. So first off, the U1 is noticeably heavier than the other ones that we've been wearing. In fact, the M1 Evo, this is 23% lighter. Now, that might not be a huge issue for you, but if you have any neck sensitivities, I think it's worth taking into account. I personally have gotten used to it, but putting this on for the first time, I definitely could tell that it is heavier. Next, I don't know how else to put this, but the sizing is weird. It's actually the same sizing as listed on their other helmets, but it fits a little bit different. So you need to keep that in mind. We both got the medium helmets, my wife and I'm around 56.5 centimeters, measured just above the eyebrow around the head. My wife is around 55, 56, so slightly smaller. And even with the rear tightened all the way down, it just doesn't fit my wife as well as she would like. So she's actually been going back to her R1 Evo because these are cross-compatible because they're both using their mesh intercom system. Now to show off comfort, I have the helmet tightened all the way down, and it's probably because my head is just not that wide. There's definitely some movement to the left and right. And yes, I had it cinched completely down. You can pull this out a little bit. This adjustment right here brings it down or further in, and I haven't found that that makes a significant difference. And comfort-wise, of course, you have padding. Now, if you have a bigger head, I would say 57-ish, maybe a little bit higher than that and up, I think you're gonna be totally fine. But if you have a smaller head, you should probably go with the other options. Next, let's talk about the buttons. I think what they tried to do is they tried to make it a little bit more sleek. And you can see there's 3 buttons here. This is actually how you turn the helmet on, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then they have another button on the other side. Now here's the buttons on my M1 Evo. You can see there's still 3 buttons here, but they're rubber buttons and they're just a little bit easier to push because they're a little bit bigger. And so while a small thing, I actually like the buttons on the old helmet a little bit better. Next, yes, it's only offered in one color. Not that you have a ton of options anyway with their other Evo helmets. Unless you go to the Bluetooth options, then they have some color options. Maybe not a huge deal, especially when you consider the benefits of being able to talk to each other. Next, $200 is quite expensive for a helmet. It's a little hard to justify the increased cost to some of the other models, especially if you can find them on sale. I know this one is safer, but the mesh intercom on these are still plenty good. So maybe you want to save some money, you could go with their other options. And for a $200 helmet, this brings me to my next one. I would have liked to see some more premium touches around the helmet. For one, they could have added the fid lock. That's a magnetic clasp as opposed to the traditional clasps that you see here. Also related to the straps, this plastic piece is what allows you to tighten it to your preference around your ears, kind of brings the 2 straps into the one, and perhaps by looking at it, it might not be surprising that this can move around much more easily. That's compared to on the R1 Evo here. It's actually a lift up and it actually cinches down on the strap, so it stays in place a little bit better, though you can see how that held up on the other side. And finally, I got this question in some of our other Sena videos. It's not really surprising to me, but you're either talking to someone else or you're connected to your phone. You're not going to be able to listen to music and then have someone talk over it or have the music stop. It's one or the other. Next, let's go through the basic functionality on the U1, basically the things that you're going to need, at least from a base level, to be able to talk to whoever you're riding with. And this is maybe a good time to also note that Sena also offers the Sena Pies. That's a more affordable option where you can actually use a helmet you already own. It just attaches to the straps. So check that out. And they also have a new product on the market that's similar to the Sena Pie. So if this video does well enough, we'll do a review on those as well. But for now, you can check out our review of the Sena Pies. So basic functionality. The most important thing to be aware of are these two buttons, the plus button and then the circle button right here. I'll put the helmet on and hopefully you can hear it as well. And I'm recording my screen. I have my Bluetooth on. And so I'm going to push these two buttons here.
Hello.
It tells your battery level, and then it tells you that your phone is connected. And look at that, it looks like I need an update. Yes, there is a companion app on the Senas. Now the app is pretty basic. It does allow you some controls, though to be honest, 99% of the time, we're just using the buttons on the side and then not even going into the app, just making sure that I'm connected via Bluetooth and then perhaps listening to music. So this is the U1 app. So there's home, that allows you to turn the mesh intercom on the app. I'll show you how to do it on the helmet in just a second. And you can control your music. And those are also two options on the below menu. You can also add speed dial presets. I think it's just easier to just use your phone and call someone. And then yes, you can control the taillights. Let's actually show that off. So yes, you can do it with the app and I can just hit solid here. And that's how the lights look. There's night flash and day flash. Now they offer some visibility during the day, though you're gonna get much more benefit at night. And overall, I think there's helmets, smart helmets with much brighter lights on them. My new Lumos helmet comes to mind there. And there's also another helmet that I own that basically has the entire back panel as LEDs. Otherwise, you can turn the lights on or off by hitting the button on the other side. And it just told me the lights are off. And you can cycle through the different lighting settings. All right, so next, you have your helmet on, you press those two buttons. The only other button you really need to know about is the middle button. And so you can feel there's the top one, there's the middle one, and I'll push that. And now Mesh Intercom is on. I'm on channel 1, and my wife would just have to do the same thing. Now her helmet is on, let it start up.
Hello.
And she'll press the middle button. Functionality is the same.
Channel 1.
And there we go, it's channel 1. You can hear me in surround sound now. But I think a better way is to actually bring my wife into the video. All right, let's go, Al. Put your helmet on.
Okay, well, let me get my helmet that I love. This is Freedom.
All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hit your two buttons. There we go. And center button, ready? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, let's go for a short ride. All right, Allie, so give me your perspective on the Sena helmets.
Well, in our family, I'm part of the safety committee, and the Sena helmet really helps with safety. Ryan has told me, car back, I can tell him I'm turning left, turning right. Safety number one, best feature.
It's not super windy today, but I can hear you very clear. And the nice thing is, because the speaker's not in your ear, you're not wearing headphones, you can still hear cars coming up behind you. I mean, of course, don't turn your volume up so high you can't hear anything else, but it does open your ears up so you can hear a little bit more what's going on around you. Wouldn't you agree, Al?
Definitely. I've also enjoyed using it just for music by myself. I would never, ever put in just headphones when biking to listen to music. But with the Sena helmet, I can still listen and still be aware of my surroundings.
And you'll notice that Allie is wearing her old helmet. That's just because of the fit. She finds that one more comfortable. I can't blame her. The other thing I think that's beneficial is when you're biking in unfamiliar places, especially when you're taking different routes. Also, if one person has Google Maps up and the other person doesn't, can be super beneficial to have the helmet so you can communicate with whoever you're riding with. And the mesh system works with tons of helmets. The Bluetooth is what has its limitations. Now, keep in mind, typically it's just the two of us. Maybe you ride with a few other people. Maybe that's not as big a deal to you. And also worth a mention is Sena has these new talkies. Now, we tried the talkies and to be honest, I was not impressed. Especially coming from these helmets, these are just so much more reliable. The wind noise on the talkies, the range wasn't as good. It's a good idea in concept. It mounts to your handlebars. We thought we might be able to have Lenny here have one on his handlebars, but it just didn't seem to work well. The Sena Pies, on the other hand, are a good alternative in my opinion. That would be $200 total for 2 riders.
I love them. When it's a turn to pick a helmet, this is always my choice. It's not like the coolest looking helmet. It's not the most comfortable helmet, but the ability to talk trumps both of those things.
I would say all of our criticisms about these helmets come from just our insane amount of riding we've done with the helmets. But that won't stop us from riding with them. All right, Al, anything else you want to say about the helmets?
Love it.
Game changer accessory, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I would spend the extra money I don't know how much these are. I'm assuming they're pricier, but it's worth it.
Remember, you can support the channel for free if you're planning to pick up any Sena products. Just use the link down in the description before you make your purchase. Thank you so much for your support. Let me know what you think of the U1. Would you go with the M1 Evo? What look do you like better? I personally hope that Sena takes a look at the comment section, listens to my comments, and just makes the product better because there's just nothing on the market that's as reliable as Sena helmets. That's why I wear them and I will continue to wear them anytime that I'm riding with my wife. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.